Hello students, welcome again to the channel, to my channel Physiology Redefined, to your channel Physiology Redefined. So today I will discuss the mode of muscle contraction in this video, or what are the types of muscle contraction. So please watch this video till the end to get the clear concept on the two types of muscle contractions or mode of muscle contraction. So there are two types of muscle contractions or two mode of muscle contractions. Two types or two modes. Number one is known as the isotonic. This is the number one type of muscle contraction, and number two, a second type of muscle contraction is known as isometric contraction. So two types of muscle contractions are there. One is known as isotonic, another one is known as isometric. So now here question comes, what is isotonic and what is isometric? So isotonic, this means this is a combination of two words. One is the iso, another is the tone. So iso means same and tone means the tension. So in this type of, or the type of the muscle contraction in which the tension remains same but length of the muscle alters, length of the muscle reduces, then that type of muscle contraction is known as isotonic muscle contraction. So definition of the isotonic is that tension remains same, tension is same and length of the muscle alters, So in the types of the muscle contraction in which tension remains same but length alters, then that type of muscle contraction is known as isotonic muscle contraction. Second one is known as the isometric. So what is isometric? So isometric muscle contraction is that type of muscle contraction in which the length remains same and tension alters. Length remains same. So here it is, isometric means iso, that is same, and metric, this means the length. So in this type of muscle contraction, length remains same. So in the type of the muscle contraction in which length remains same but tension alters, then that type of muscle contraction is known as isometric muscle contraction. So to define the isometric contraction, it is a type of the muscle contraction in which the length becomes same and tension alters. So these are the definition of the isotonic and the isometric muscle contraction. Now here question comes, in case of isometric muscle contraction, as I told, it is the muscle contraction. So muscle contraction means muscle will shorten, and if the muscle will shorten, then obviously the length will decrease or length will alters. But in this type of muscle contractions, I told length remains same. Muscle contraction is going on, still the length remains same. Then how it is possible? How it is possible that in spite of shortening of the muscle, the length remains unaltered or remains same? This is possible because of the fact that here you see, in case of isotonic, this is the isotonic contraction. Suppose these are the types of the isotonic contractions. in which what's happened. So this is the muscle, and muscle is connected. You know that muscle is connected with the bone by means of tendon. So this is the tendon. This is the tendon. So when the, and this is suppose this is the bone. This is the bone. So once the muscle contracts, muscle will shorten. So during contraction what's happened? Muscle will shorten. Because of the shortening of the muscle will shorten. So here this is the length of the muscle. This is the length of the muscle. But in this case, length of the muscle is getting reduced. Length of the muscle is getting reduced. And as the length is getting reduced, this type of muscle contraction is known as isotonic muscle contractions, in which tension remains same. But in case of isometric contractions, as I told, the length remains same. How the length remains same in case of isometric contractions? You know that muscle is connected with the bone by the help of tendons, and tendon is the series elastic component. There are two types of elastic component present in the muscle. One is the series elastic component, another is the parallel elastic component. Parallel elastic component is the fibrous sheath surrounding the muscle along with the myofilaments which lies in parallel. Series elastic component are the component which are the tendon and the aponeurosis. Tendon and the aponeurosis. Tendon is the fibrous tissue which connects muscle to bone. Tendon connects muscle to bone, and aponeurosis connects one muscle to the other muscle. So this is the difference between the tendon and the aponeurosis. But both are the part of the series elastic component. So in case of isometric contractions, what will happen? And these series elastic components are stretchable. They are having elasticity property, so they are stretchable. So what's happened in case of isometric contractions? Suppose here this is the tendons, this is the tendons. The length of the tendon is this much. Length of the tendon, that is the series elastic component, is this much. Now once the contraction takes place, what's happened? The muscle is getting shortened. As the contraction obviously will mean the muscle will shorten. So muscle will shorten. But that shortened of the muscle will be compensated by the lengthening of the series elastic component. Here you see series elastic component will be increased. Series elastic component here this much and there this much. So whatever length is shortened due to contraction of the muscle, that is compensated by the lengthening of the tendon or series elastic component, and thereby the visible length of the muscle remains same. Muscle will shorten, but visibly we cannot see. Apparently we cannot see that muscles are getting shortened, because decreasing length of the muscle due to contraction is compensated by increasing the length of the muscle, by increasing the length of the series elastic component or the tendons. So this is how length, in case of isometric contraction, length remains same. So now is about the length. So second parameter is the length. As I told, length in case of isotonic contraction, length alters or length reduces. Length reduces in case of isotonic contraction, and in case of isometric contractions, what will be the length? Yes, it will remain same. So length doesn't alter, length will remain same. Second one is the third one is the tension. So as I told, tension in case of isotonic contraction, tension remains same. Tension remains same. And in case of isometric contraction, tension increases. Tension increases. So tension remains same in isotonic and increases or alters in case of isometric contraction. Next one is the example. What is the examples of the isotonic and isometric contractions? Suppose a weight is there on the ground and you have to lift the weight. You have to lift the weight from the ground. So lifting the weight from the ground. Lifting the weight from the ground is the examples of the isotonic contraction. So lifting the weight from the ground, that is the examples of the isotonic contraction. Running, walking, all are the examples of the isotonic contractions. Whereas isometric contractions example is, suppose again a weight is there but the weight is too heavy to lift it from the ground. You are trying to lift the weight from the ground but you are unable to lift. So in such a condition, that type of contraction of the muscle is the examples of isometric contraction. So trying to lift the weight, but unable to do. So this is the examples of the isometric contractions. Another example, suppose you are trying to push the wall from your body, but you cannot push the wall. Can you? Obviously not. It is fixed. So you are trying to push the wall, but wall is not pushed. So it is the examples of isometric contraction. If the wall is pushed, if your strength is so much high and wall strength is too much low, then what's happened? You will be able to push the wall. So wall will pushed, and that type of example will be the example of isotonic contraction. So if the wall is not displaced, even if you push, it is the isometric, and if the wall is displaced, it is the examples of the isotonic contractions. I think it is clear. Next one is the external work. You know that physical work, as per the law of physics, work done is equal to force into displacement. Work done is equal to force into displacement. So in case of isotonic contractions, what's happened? In case of isotonic contractions, what's happened? The displacement is there. As the displacement is there, the external work is, as the displacement is there, in this case, displacement is there, in this case, work done is present. Work done is present because displacement is there. You are lifting the weight from the ground. So weight is getting lifted. So there is a displacement of the object. You are pushing the wall and the wall is pushed. Wall is displaced. So there is a displacement of the wall. So that in that case, as the displacement has got a value, the external work done, or as per the physics, work done in case of isotonic contraction is present. But in case of isometric contractions, what's happened? As work done is equal to F into D. In this case, D is equal to 0. As no displacement is there, you are trying to lift the object from the ground but unable to lift. So no displacement. You are trying to pushing the wall, but wall is not displaced. So displacement is 0. As the displacement is 0, if it multiply even if the force is applied, if it multiplied by 0, there will be that means there will be the no or external work is absent in case of isometric contraction. Now is the physiological work. Physiological work in case of isotonic contraction is less. Even if the external work is more or present here, physiologically work is less in comparison to the isometric contraction. In case of isometric contraction, the physiological work is more. Next is the heat production. Heat production in case of isotonic contraction is less because physiological work is less, so heat production will be less. And as in case of isometric contraction, the physiological work is more, so heat production will be more. And lastly, the experimental condition. In which experimental condition the isotonic type of contraction can be recorded, and in which type of isometric contraction, in which type of experimental condition isometric contraction can be achieved. So this isotonic contraction can be experimentally possible in case of after loaded condition, and in case of isometric it is the free loading condition, free loaded condition. So now here the term, what is the meaning of this term after loaded and the free loaded? After loaded means once the load will act on the body, on the muscle, once the muscle is contracting. So muscle, I am suppose trying to pull this duster by contracting my biceps muscle. So once the muscle is getting contracted, load is acted. So this is the examples of the after loaded condition. This is the examples of the after loaded condition. Load is acted once or applied once the muscle is contracting. That is the after loaded condition. In case of free loaded condition, what's happened? Suppose the weight is there on my palm. In such a case, what's happened? That to make the weight, because of this weight, it will try to, because of the gravitational force, it will try to drop down, but it is not getting dropped. I am just holding it because of the contractions of the muscle. So once the load is acted on the muscle, to keep that load on the particular place, the muscles are getting stretched. So load acts on the muscle not only when the muscle contracts, but also before the muscle contraction. So muscle stretching is taking place even before the muscle contraction. Then that type of condition is known as free loaded. So one is the after loaded, another is the free loaded. Free loaded means the load will act on the muscle even before the muscle contraction starts. And as the muscle, in this free loaded condition, what's happened? As the load is acted on before the muscle contraction starts, there is a stretching of the muscles. So muscle length, initial length of the muscle is getting more. As the initial length of the muscle is getting more, force of contraction will be more, or physiological work will be more. So in case of isometric condition, as the initial length of the muscle contraction is more, so as per the Starling's law, more will be the initial length, more will be the force of contraction. The greater will be the initial length of the muscle, greater will be the force of contraction. So in case of free loaded condition, as the load acts even before the muscle contraction starts, or muscle is getting stretched, length of the muscle is getting more, and thereby force of the contraction will be more. As this results, this is because of the fact that isometric contraction, in case of isometric contraction, physiological work is more. So this is all about the two types of muscle contraction, isotonic and the isometric contractions. I strongly believe this aspect of mode of contraction of the muscle contraction is very clear to you. And if you like this one, please subscribe this channel if not yet subscribed, and share it to your friends. Thank you.